On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, we are boots on the ground in Houston. Going to do a Final Four preview. It's here. It's finally here. I got my Final Four. I have four final thoughts on the Final Four. It's a very confusing segment. It's going to be the Final Four thoughts. Some matchups to watch. Maybe some lessons we can learn from these Final Four teams for next year's manifesto, because my manifesto needs a New Testament, basically. But that's okay. We got time. But I'm going to talk through just some lingering thoughts I have on the Final Four and get excited about that. Initial vibe check. Houston on the last show, Big Cat and I were crapping all over it as a bad Final Four city, but now we're here. So what's the vibe? How are we feeling? All that sort of thing. I have gotten to the point that I am excited to be here. It is the juices are flowing. I don't care if the rest of the world is. Way too many people are talking about the ticket prices. Even though the ticket prices for like the national championship every year suck. So I'm over that. But we're here. We're here in Houston, and we're gonna do a Final Four preview. And we're gonna get fired up for this Final Four coming on Saturday. Yeah, all that's coming up. Let's rock. Let's do this. All right, it is about 6:07, I want to say, local time. Is that right? It's 8:07 local time. My computer is still stuck on LA time. It's 8:07. I was looking at the computer. It is Thursday evening here in Houston. TJ and I are here in TJ's hotel room. And initial vibes, TJ. Initial vibes on the Final Four. How many Final Fours have you been to in your life?
This is 2.
This is the second one. So the first one you ever went to was like
kind of high expectations.
Oh boy. First question I have for you. I am wearing as I was leaving the house today, I swear to God I did not plan on this, but I was walking out the house and I have like a Final Four from 07 when we went to Atlanta. I have like a display box that I keep like. It's tastefully displayed in my apartment. You know, it's not gaudy in your face, but it's like, you know, if you were snooping around, you would come across it. And I have it like over in the corner or whatever. And as I was walking out the door, I saw it, and then I remembered I had a ring in here. So I thought, you know what? If there was ever a time to wear the Final Four ring, it's Final Four weekend. So I threw it on, rode on the plane here, and I'm not really a ring guy. But I'm wearing my Final Four ring. My initial thoughts to you, or my initial question to you about this, TJ, because I've had this ring on for about 4 hours is all. Am I a douchebag for this?
Yeah, I don't think. If I made any sort of championship, high school, college, whatever.
But we didn't win, so like it does feel a little weird. But we were here, so I'm wearing the like every time you go to a Final Four. Every player here will obviously get one. It's literally just a Final Four ring. It has the NCAA logo in the middle, and it says Final Four around the outside. It has the date on it. Has my name on the side somewhere. So all these guys that are here are gonna get this, and it's like it's kind of subtle. Obviously, there's only like 2 little fake ass diamonds in it. But that makes it cooler to me because it's like timeless, and you feel like, you know, like the dudes in like the 30s. I guess there wasn't a tournament in the 30s. Probably the 40s and 50s. Like they probably have one, maybe not. I don't know. So I think it's kind of cool. But then every time I've ever put on one of our rings that I've ever won, I'm like, you're a douchebag, and I take it off. So anyway,
it's the season.
You think I'm good?
Leave it up while you can.
You think so? We were downstairs in the lobby at the bar of our hotel. Tyler Thornton. I don't know if you saw who that was. Do you know who Tyler Thornton is? The guy sitting across the way from us that was eating by himself. He's an assistant at Howard now. But was a point guard at Duke from 2011 to 14, and he was there in between. His 4 years at Duke were the 4 years in between national championships, so he has like the most brutal. 2010 they win the title. He shows up to campus. They lose to Lehigh and Mercer, and then the next year they win the national championship. And I'm not saying it's his fault. He's a nice guy, whatever. But I'm gonna be honest, TJ, like. My chest started like puffing out a little bit because I was wearing a Final Four ring, and this man was a point guard at Duke, and I'm just like a scumbag that scored 9 points for Ohio State once upon a time. And that made me, but then I felt like the douchebag flowing through my veins where I was just like, I wonder if he sees this, you know?
Start,
like I'm
yeah,
like,
you start like accidentally, holding up your hand like, hey, what is this on my finger?
The worst part about it is that you see, you know, like you bump into a guy that was like on Villanova that won 2 national titles, and he's got one on each middle finger or something, and then suddenly my puny little national runner-up bullshit fake ass ring doesn't mean anything. So there's levels to this. There's levels to this at the Final Four. But I am excited to be here because just getting off the plane, coming here, and the short time I've been here, and you see the hoopla in the airport, and you know obviously the people milling about downtown and all that sort of thing. It reminds you that this is a celebration more so. Like obviously we are going to crown a national champion, but the Final Four is like a basketball convention and a celebration. The two conventions I would say that exist, the two basketball conventions that aren't conventions but actually are, is the Final Four and NBA Summer League. It's just like a who's who of basketball walking around, and the fact that you can just be sitting at a bar and Tyler Thornton sits down. If you would have told me to make a list of like all the people in the world we would have bumped into today, he would not have been on that. I could have made a list of 10,000 people. I wouldn't have had him. And then he sits down. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I remember watching him at Duke. And that's what this weekend is just like bumping into people, reminiscing, but also celebrating the sport. And I guess like my initial thoughts about as we are here and we're gearing up for Saturday, and coming off the heels of like Dan and I on Wednesday talking a lot about where college basketball's at, and you know, people shit on it because that's what we do. As an internet culture, you just shit all over everything. I do think that this Final Four is shaping up to be the all-time college basketball hater Final Four. Like this will, I'm not blind to that. I see that these teams don't pop for people. Houston is a lovely city. I'm going to enjoy the time here, but it's not like a, you know, like last year in New Orleans, if we would have had these teams in New Orleans last year, people would have been like, I don't care who the teams are. I want to go to New Orleans and have fun at that event. I don't think Houston necessarily brings that out of people. But ultimately, I think we're at a spot where like everything is, this is going to be awesome. Like it is, because it is awesome. And I think like you get to a point where you realize the people that talk about college basketball dying, if you really like do a 30,000 foot view of all sports, it feels like every single sport is dying. And we're recording this on the day that MLB is having an opening day, and baseball has been dying forever. College basketball, like basically every single sport is dying. So you get to a point, except for NFL, but then even NFL not a couple years ago. Remember when like the NFL was going to go away? Remember when like Mark Cuban was like,
were protesting.
Yeah. Will Smith did a movie and he's like, tell the truth.
Right,
and then everyone's like, oh shit, is the NFL going to go away? So my point is like the NFL is the only league that, like college football, even like people think that conference realignment and that, you know, the same teams winning over and over, that sport is quote unquote dying. Just like if you listen to people, they'll say that every sport's dying. And you get to a point where if you're a fan of college basketball and you live in this bubble, you're just like, fuck it. Like if you think it's dying, it's dying. At the end of the day, we're going to have fun. But having said that, like I do understand why people think that this Final Four is going to stink, and I guess like my first like big thought as we're entering the weekend is that I do think that this Final Four that we have is a sign of the times in college basketball, and whether that's a good thing or bad thing depends on your perspective. But the parity we had this year, the lack of individual talent in terms of there's no McDonald's All-Americans in this Final Four for the first time ever. There's probably no lottery picks unless Jordan Hawkins can play his way into the lottery these next few days, and then have a great, you know, pre-draft thing, which I think he can, by the way. But as of right now, there's no like surefire lottery picks in this Final Four. There's no All-Americans probably. Again, like some Sanogo might make his way onto a list. I don't know. There's certainly going to be no first team All-Americans, probably no second team All-Americans. So none of those guys are here. But there are some good teams, obviously. But by looking at it through that lens, I think that is indicative of like what college basketball is, which is that all this season we were talking about how much parity there was, and how the number one team, whoever was number one, you just kept waiting for them to lose because I think we did set a record, didn't we, for the most number ones? I think at one point we set a record for the most number ones losing in a college basketball season, or we tied it or something. That like there's a new number one X number of times, and that was like a record. I think there was one other season where there was this many. But yeah, the if you want to call it a talent drain of college basketball, this is, which I don't go that far, because I'm one of the guys that's wired that, like, even if there was, you could put third graders in Ohio State jerseys and I would still watch every game and cheer for us to win the national championship. So for me, like, I kind of don't care. For other people, they do. And when you look at this, the mock NBA drafts, and you got a guy like Victor Wembanyama, who's obviously not in college, Scoot Henderson obviously not in college, the Thompson twins, who are probably going to be top 10 guys, they're not in college. And then even some of the guys that were highly thought of coming into college kind of didn't matter this year. I mean, you had Brandon Miller at Bama, Jarris Walker at Houston. They were on great teams, but Nick Smith was hurt all season for Arkansas. And then even when he did get healthy, he was never really their best player anyway. Cam Whitmore is a guy that was highly thought of coming into the season, and he started out hurt, if I remember correctly. And then Villanova never really got that good. G.G. Jackson at South Carolina, their team was terrible. So when you look at like the individual talent piece of all this, I do understand why outsiders look at this Final Four and say there's not a lot of meat on the bone. But I also think that this might be the new norm in college basketball. And if you are like an NBA hole that looks at this sort of thing and says, I need my top 5 picks to be competing for national championships, maybe this is it. Maybe this is where we're headed. I do think that, like, as the all these other avenues to the NBA open themselves up, and name, image, likeness does help, but I don't know if it's going to be a different. I don't know. That's kind of where I arrived. Was like, I think this might be the new norm, is that we have teams that have like super old dudes and play well together, and really, really, really good college players playing well together. That is what I think might be the future of college basketball, is taking a team like UConn that is super talented across the board. They will have guys that will play in the NBA, but none of these guys are surefire NBA stars. And I guess, like, as NBA and college have kind of diverged, this was sort of inevitable that we would get to this point where it feels like two different sports, and it does. And it used to be, I remember when I was a kid, you'd watch the NBA, you'd watch college, and you're like, they're playing the same sport, but one brand of basketball has better players and the other brand has bands and cheerleaders, but it's like the same sport. Now it's like kind of diverging, and I just wonder if like this Final Four is in fact a sign of the times, which I think it might be. Quick break to talk about Gametime, the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Created by fans for fans, Gametime is the ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price, whether you're going to Wrigley Field for a Cubs game, 1-0 Chicago Cubs, or whether you're going to Wrigley Field for a Dead & Co. concert in June, like I might be doing. No matter what you're into, what kind of live show you're trying to see, use Gametime. It is all possible with the Gametime app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. The purchase process just takes 2 taps and 10 seconds, and once you buy your tickets, they're delivered directly to your phone. No printer needed. The app also allows you to easily share tickets with friends via text, so you can get into the game seamlessly. Skip the hassle and enjoy the moment. Download the Gametime app or go to the website, enter your email, and redeem the code Titus for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But go download the Gametime app, go to the website, enter your email, and redeem code Titus, $20 off first purchase. The other side to that is I'm not really fully sure what conclusions we do draw from it, because all 4 of these teams, like, I've seen all the talk coming into this Final Four. Like, it seems like people want to build a narrative around what it takes to make a Final Four in this modern era of college basketball. But like, all 4 of these teams, if you really look at them, they're 4 very different roster constructions. So like, I don't know what the conclusion even is. I do think that this Final Four is a sign of the time, so to speak. I don't know what the conclusion is. I haven't arrived at that point, because you have a San Diego State team that is like the COVID senior team. That's who they are. They have 4 guys that are in their 5th year, or they're using their COVID year, not just their 5th year, because we've seen obviously 5th years before in college basketball with red shirts and transfers and all that. You have got 4 guys that are playing their 5th year because they got a bonus year for COVID on San Diego State's rotation. They're one of the oldest teams in Division I. That is kind of like if you were to boil down their roster construction into one bullet point, you would say they have a lot of dudes that took advantage of the free COVID year, and that's why they're so old and they've gotten to this point and they're so good. Miami, you would say, is the name, image, likeness team that Nigel Pack just like very openly, brazenly. We all knew about Nigel Pack's $800,000 deal to go to Miami. The second he arrived on campus, we all knew that this was going on, and it was a very weird feeling to both know that name, image, likeness is here and this is going to be the new era of college basketball, but then at the same time to see a headline that says Nigel Pack takes $800,000 to go to Miami and know that there's like no recourse or there's no punishment because it's not illegal anymore. So that was weird. And then Isaiah Wong, who's the ACC Player of the Year on Miami, when Nigel Pack gets his deal, he says, I'm going to transfer unless I get money. And so like Miami kind of represents the name, image, likeness part of all this, where it's like they will openly talk about it and say this is what it is. Why are you being weird about this? We're not being weird about this. This is the new system. So I think they represent that. FAU is kind of like the old school their roster continuity is they just have a bunch of upperclassmen. They have one of the 7 of the 8 guys that saw the floor against Kansas State in the Elite 8 game have been there for 2+ years at Florida Atlantic. So they just like took the exact same guys. They took the old school mid-major recipe of just like having the exact same guys getting better as a team and individually. And then, funny enough, the one guy that they brought in was Jalen Gaffney from UConn. He's the only guy in the rotation that wasn't basically within the program last year. And they and all this talk of NIL and transfer portal and all that, like to my knowledge, FAU certainly didn't really hit the portal. That's not how they got good overnight. They weren't paying players a shit ton of money. Obviously, it's FAU. They don't have deep pockets down there. And then UConn is taking like UConn's path to getting this good is kind of like a traditional blue blood recipe where you have like the core group of guys with Sonogo and Hawkins and Andre Jackson. But last year, obviously, they weren't this good. So you take like your core, you bring in a couple stud freshmen, Klingon and Caravan, who I think redshirt. I don't think he's a true freshman, but point stands. And then they dabbled in the transfer portal, and you get Tristan Newton, who's the kind of their ceiling. Where when he's playing well, they become this team that's dominant. And when he wasn't playing as well in the middle of the season, they weren't as good. But Joey Calcaterra, a lean from Virginia Tech, they took kind of the mix. And I guess my ultimate point with all this is that all 4 of these teams are very different, and it feels like a lot of people in talking about these 4 teams are trying to find the common ground, and I'm not really sure there is one. I'm not sure there is one. So I'm not really sure what the conclusion is from, like, as I looked at the Final Four, I was like, this is a sign of the times, but what sign is it? I don't know.
I don't think that
I don't know what
necessarily
the sign is.
A bad sign either.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is like the turning point where it's like, I don't know if blue bloods are going to be blue bloods anymore.
Yeah. But then at the same time, if you're watching the McDonald's All-American game, the Kentucky guys look really freaking good. And Michigan State guys are good. Like, Michigan State's going to have an awesome recruiting class. Duke has an awesome recruiting class. And then you're thinking maybe, I don't know, maybe this was a blip. Or next year, like, Kentucky's going to be dominant and we're going to be right back where we were. But
as a fan of a smaller school, I like to think this is like the turning point where now it's wide open. It might just be a COVID side effect.
It just feels like we're all talking out of both sides of our mouths and trying to explain like how we arrived at this Final Four, because even the part of like this is a shocking Final Four. This is wild that all 4 of these teams were ranked at the end of the season. So like even that part is like I mean, it obviously it's shocking in that like I didn't pick these teams in my bracket or anything. Like I didn't see this coming, but at the same time you're like, yeah, if someone told you going into conference tournament week that 4 ranked teams are going to make the Final Four, you'd be like, yeah, that checks out. That makes a lot of sense. But yet, like, these 4 are the 4, and we're suddenly like, holy shit, these guys came out of nowhere. So I feel like this is in the same sort of thing with, if you look at Miami, you do make the argument that name, image, likeness has completely changed the sport. And Nigel Pack probably does get, if this is 1996, not even 1996, 2006, Nigel Pack, when he wants to transfer from Kansas State, he probably does go back home and go to Purdue, or probably not IU, but he probably, he visited Purdue, and Purdue thought they had a shot at him. And then my understanding was Miami's like, we will pay you $800,000. And Purdue was like, we don't have $800,000, but we do have a Neil Armstrong statue. And he was like, I'm going to take the $800,000. But if this was, if in a different era, he probably goes to Purdue. So everyone like points at Miami and says, that guy that's kind of spearheading Miami's charge of the Final Four, he is the face of this new era of college basketball. But and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But then also like explain FAU then. Like FAU is not that. UConn's not really that. I mean, I'm sure all these guys are getting NIL deals and stuff, but it's not like the thing about Nigel Pack and why he became such the face of all this was because it was just so brazenly like pay for play type stuff. Like we will pay you, you will come here. You don't need to visit. Like, and obviously this stuff's been going. I don't mean to make this an NIL podcast leading into the Final Four, but it just didn't sit right with a lot of the old heads. So you point at a situation like that, say that is the future, but I don't know if that is the future because there, as it turns out, I still think we're at a spot as a sport where a bunch of different styles can work and will work, and I think that's what the lesson is from this Final Four, is that it is a sign of the times and that things are changing, and there is more parity, and there might not be superstar talent. That the best play, having just simply the best players on the court or the best NBA prospects, that's not the path to success maybe anymore because they're two different sports. But also, like, there is no blueprint. We don't have like an obvious blueprint. It's not like everyone's watching. The college basketball is not a copycat league, is what I'm saying. I guess there's a lot of sports that are that when Steph Curry revealed to the NBA that 3 points are worth more than two, the whole league was like, "Holy shit, we should shoot threes too." I don't think college basketball works that way, and that's why I love it. Is because I don't think you are coming out. Whoever wins this Final Four, I don't think the rest of the country is like, we should do what they do. Maybe they like tweak some things here and there, but they're not going to be like, shit, they solved the form. Tony Bennett won a title in 2019 and no one was like, we should slow the game down.
Certainly nobody's going to look at a team like FAU and be like, we need to develop guys for 5 years and then we will get to a Final Four.
Good, yeah. Dogs will eat anything: shoes, toilet paper, garbage, and even kibble. But just because they'll eat it doesn't mean it's healthy food. Here's an idea. What if dogs ate real food? Eating processed food for every meal is not healthy. We all know that, and kibble is subject to multiple rounds of high heat processing, making it an ultra-processed food. Try something fresh. Feed your dog the farmer's dog. It's real, fresh, healthy food with whole meat and veggies, gently cooked in human-grade kitchens to preserve their nutritional value. Just tell them about your dog, and they'll deliver personalized, vet-developed recipes for as little as $2 a day. Meals arrive in pre-portioned, ready-to-serve packs, conveniently delivered on your schedule. Dog people all across the country have ordered millions of meals from the farmer's dog, myself included. Just got the notification that I think it's arriving tomorrow. So we'll have to have Moses on the podcast and have him do a review. But this dog is going to go absolutely nuts for the farmer's dog. It has never been easier to invest in your dog's health with fresh food. Get 50% off your first box of fresh, healthy food at thefarmersdog.com/Titus. Plus, you get free shipping. If you love your dog as much as I love mine, and I know you do, just go to thefarmersdog.com/Titus. Get 50% off. That's thefarmersdog.com/Titus. So that was my first big thought, was like, I think we're all kind of trying to find a take-home narrative about these four teams, and I'm not really sure there is one, other than just to say, like, yeah, there are individual signs of the times with these teams, but I don't think it's like, I don't think there's a big overarching point that that this is where we're at as a sport. My second thought I had, I was going to talk about these two. I'm looking forward to the game Saturday. Two chess matches to watch. When Miami has the ball against UConn, when Florida Atlantic has the ball against San Diego State. So Miami is obviously has very good guard play. They're very, very small. Everybody knows this. If you've been watching Miami in the tournament, you know this. If you've been watching Miami all year, you've known this. UConn with Sonogo and Klingon have two big guys. They bring Klingon off the bench, who's a freaking monster. And I think there's this idea of like, how is Miami going to match up with UConn? But what I find fascinating is that Miami doesn't care about how they match up with UConn. Miami is going into this game saying, how is UConn going to match up with us? Because we've been here before. They had the similar situation with Auburn last year in the second round game where Auburn had all the size in the world. Miami did not, and they just were running circles around Auburn's defense, and Auburn looked lost at times trying to guard them. I think Miami's mindset going into this game is going to be very similar. I think Miami might even go smaller before they try to go bigger. We're going to see Jordan Miller at the 5, and they're just going to spread out the floor and drive, and probably draw fouls like they did against Drake, like they did against Texas, get to the foul line. They don't miss when they get to the foul line. I'm just fascinated by that matchup because Miami, as much as people want to think they might be too small, it does have a feeling of like the Fairleigh Dickinson Purdue game where like being small is exactly what they think their strength is. And if they can spread out UConn. Now, I will say, though, what makes it fascinating with UConn is that they're not just big down low. I mean, they got Newton, Hawkins, and Jackson is a very, very long, very athletic backcourt. To have those 3 guys like matching up against the guards, I think that will be interesting as well, because this idea that UConn just has like the 2 big guys and that's what makes them quote unquote big, that is not the case. So I'm fascinated by that matchup because Miami will just go as small as they possibly can. They're going to spread the floor. They're going to drive and kick. They shoot threes well. They shoot free throws well. They have all the confidence in the world. I'm fascinated by the dome thing. Depending on who you talk to, they say that domes don't matter. Other people say they do matter. I'm, again, just a douchebag that wears his Final Four ring and scored 9 career points, but they were allowed 9. People forget that part. I know when we played in Atlanta and I was shooting it, I had to stop warming up because I could not. Like my whole thing when I was like at Ohio State was like warm-ups, obviously, because that's the only time people can see me. So I would like try to just like bomb threes to show off in warm-ups because I was like, I'm not getting in the game. And I remember both the Final Four game and the national championship game, I kind of just stopped shooting because I could not make sense of. And again, I'm not even 1/1000th as talented as these guys are, but shooting in the dome, I was like, I can't figure this shit out. I'm done
because of the depth.
Yeah, it was just like way too big. I hated it. I absolutely hate it. It was real to me. It's real to me, damn it. Yeah. But then some people I've talked to are like, no, man, it's shoot. Like you just lock in on the rim, and but like people look at different things when they shoot too, though. So I
could see like that, or like it's just a different like soundscape when you're in front of 80,000 people versus 8,000 people or whatever. Like
it is. It was like very eerie to come out for warm-ups, and so I just kind of like stood off to the side in a way that I usually don't. Usually I'm like Usually I was like getting in front of the starters to like get shots up because I was like, this is my time to shine. Yeah.
If Twitter was more prevalent, then there would be like beat writers like, this Titus kid is
we got
10 for 11 from 3 in warm-ups. Watch out tonight.
We got to get this kid minutes. He doesn't miss. Mm-hmm. That was So I again take my experience with a grain of salt because I don't matter and I suck. But also, if I remember correctly, national championship game against Florida, I think we were 4 for 23 from the 3-point line as a team. I don't know. Anyway, I think there's something to the dome thing. So we'll see. I don't know. Some guys are they obviously are practicing all week and they'll have plenty of shots in the dome before the game starts. So maybe it won't affect them. But yeah, when Miami has the ball, I will be fascinated by the chess match of like who bends first. Does like Miami feel like they don't have it being small? Does that like affect them because they just have no interior presence whatsoever? They're getting crushed on the boards. Norchad Omier is incredible. I think I said it a couple shows ago. I floated it on purpose to see if Miami fans are going to push back. None of them did, so I'm going to stick by it. That I think he might be their best player. I think he is their best player. I think Isaiah Wong and Pack. Wong's the ACC Player of the Year, and Pack is, incredible. And Jordan Miller had the perfect. Like they're obviously very good, but I think Omier makes them special. I think his ability to be 6'7" and play the 5 for them and do all the dirty work. I think that's why this team is so good. So I just think like when they go small and UConn is big, what happens next? Does someone change their strategy at any point? does Miami try to, if Omer gets in foul trouble or something and they're getting destroyed on the boards, or they're like, shit, we got to start like throwing some dudes that don't get a ton of minutes in there to bang with the big dudes at UConn, or is it the other way around? Like, are we going to see UConn try to go small to match Miami's guard play? I'm fascinated by that. And then when Florida Atlantic has the ball against San Diego State, FAU takes and makes a ton of threes. That's how they've played all season. They basically put the big dude Golden. They surround him with 4 shooters or 4 guys that can shoot, and away we go. And it's very similar to Miami, except their big dude is 7'1" instead of 6'7". And they want to shoot a ton of threes because they make a ton of threes because they are all good shooters. San Diego State is the number 2 3-point field goal defense in the country. But beyond that, in postseason play this year, teams are shooting 19% from 3 against San Diego State in 7 games. In 3 Mountain West games and 4 NCAA tournament games now, San Diego State opponents are shooting 19% from the 3-point line. That's insane. 19%. So you watch San Diego State, you lull yourself into like believing that it's like an anomaly that these teams are throwing up bricks because they're almost like just reacting to, I don't know, maybe I'm building a straw man here, but because I've caught myself thinking this, where it's like, is San Diego State's defense like actually that good, or is it just like they just like set the tone of like, let's play shitty basketball today, and then the other offense follows their shitty offense, and it just becomes a muck fest? And the answer is no. They are actually legitimately great defensively. They will run you off the 3-point line. We've been talking about it all week. We've been talking about it since they did it to Bama. They will run you off the 3-point line, and Mensah will race shots at the rim. So Florida Atlantic being patient and not coming out of the gate and just jacking up threes, which is exactly what San Diego State wants. That's going to be fascinating to watch because I do think Florida Atlantic has a team that obviously plays like more aesthetically pleasing basketball, but I think they have a team that's like more built for what I would believe it would take to win a national championship, like playing guard-oriented basketball and like having multiple guys who can beat you. Like just the way Florida Atlantic approaches the game, I think is better suited to win 2 games in this Final Four. But San Diego State has done such a good job of playing every single game in this tournament on their terms, and that's how they. I guess that's ultimately the point. Is I think Florida Atlantic has a better plan B and a plan C and a plan D, whereas San Diego State is like, we have plan A and that's about it. But every single time we take the floor, we have found a way to get people to play into our plan A. And watching Florida Atlantic try to manage that will be fascinating because, yeah, if they come out, and especially in the Dome, if like it affects them and they're bricking threes, it could be a very long night. And those people that are watching that game might change the channel. they might change. It might be a 47-42 final of San Diego State. But yeah, I think Florida Atlantic is in a good spot, but they're gonna have to really be patient on offense with that sort of thing, and I trust that they will because they've had a lot of time to study film and all that sort of thing. Today's show is brought to you by the Barstool Sportsbook, the one and only sportsbook of this show and Barstool Sports. The Barstool Sportsbook is made for you, the loyal fans and listeners, and is the only place to find exclusive picks and parlays from Big Cat, El Prez, and quite possibly myself. Still deciding whether or not I want to pull the trigger on some massive parlay I'm putting together for this week, and we'll see. Follow or fade us, it's up to you. Now offering a $1,000 bonus for new players. If your first bet loses, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So download and create an account today. Use code Titus to unlock your $1,000 bonus. The Barstool Sportsbook lets you bet however you like with daily odds boosts, live in-game wagering, move the line and teaser bets, and Parlay Plus for bigger payouts. iCasino is also available in select states with table games and slots. If you love the Mark Titus Show, you got to get the Barstool Sportsbook. So download and create an account today, and be sure to use the code Titus to unlock your $1,000 bonus. That's the Barstool Sportsbook. Code Titus. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Number three, my third big thought I want to talk about, where do these coaches go from here? Because if you look at last year's group of coaches, Mr. K, the artist formerly known as Coach K, but he's no longer coaching, and he got a dog named Coach TJ, so Coach K is technically the dog. He retired, obviously. Jay Wright retired. Bill Self That's one of the weird stories of college basketball, by the way, that this man had an emergency procedure, never came back, and we're knocking on wood, and we hope he's fine and everything's all right. But is anybody going to be surprised if this summer Bill Self retires? I certainly won't be. I hope he doesn't. I hope he's back. But it highlights the unknown of how different a year can be. And then you had Hubert Davis, who was taking going on this impossible run to the national championship game. He's up big at halftime, and you're thinking, all right, well, I guess Carolina found their man. And then he follows it up a year later with the most disappointing season in college basketball history. And the point of mentioning all of this is just highlighting how different things can be in 1 year. And when you have a crop of coaches who 3 of them are making their debut Final Four, one of them is, and then the other one is Jim Larrañaga, obviously, who's been here before, but it was like more of a Cinderella run. And this is kind of his first, like, I earned, like I had a good team. We beat good team. Like, I don't know. I should say that differently, because George Mason was good and they beat very good teams. But it's his first time coming to a Final Four with a team that could legitimately win the national championship. They could win the national championship. George Mason was not winning the national championship. So you have these 4 coaches that are kind of new to the party ish, and the belief would be maybe that this is the first step for like an obvious trajectory, and Dan Hurley from here is now going to just rip off maybe more national championships if he ends up winning it on Monday, or more Final Four appearances. And this is just the start of something special for Dan Hurley or Brian Dutcher or Dusty May. And I guess like you can't take that stuff for granted. And I'm just fascinated by, is this the last, like what happens from here? I don't know. At this point, it's obviously just going to be speculation. It does feel like Dan Hurley's in a great spot in the Big East, as all the bouncing around is going on with coaches. And I love Pitino at St. John's, but let's be honest, like I don't think anyone's really expecting St. John's to be a national power. Maybe they will be. That would be, what a freaking sick story that would be. But UConn is unequivocally the best program in the Big East. Now they have to probably win a Big East for Big East fans to agree with me on that. They have not won like the regular season conference or the Big East tournament, but if they win the national championship, UConn is in a great position. They're back. They're very much back to like, this is what we do. This is the Calhoun era type thing. But again, Kevin Ollie won a national championship, and the feeling was sort of similar when that happened, of like, we found our guy and this is it and all that sort. So what happens next with that is going to be fascinating to me. Jim Larrañaga, going into this Final Four, is getting a lot of Hall of Fame buzz. And I'm a guy that thinks every coach should be in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame should literally just be, if I know who you are, you should be in the Hall of Fame, because it's called the Hall of Fame. And if I know who you are, you're obviously famous. What do you think about that, TJ?
It's like if you survived through like the early stages of being a coach and you became a legacy coach. Yeah. Throw them in.
If I know who you are, you're in the Hall of Fame. That's I think I'm going to start my own Hall of Fame, and it's just like literally, do I know, if say like our voting process is someone just says a guy's name, yes, and then I just say, yeah, I know who that is.
Yes or who.
Yeah, or yes or who. But Larrañaga is getting Hall of Fame buzz. He I again, with like all these older coaches retiring, you might think like, all right, so if Jim Larrañaga wins these next 2, is he riding off into the sunset? For what it's worth, he's saying no. He's like, I'm here for the long haul. I think he's under contract for 3 more years at least at Miami. He's got 725 wins, I believe, going into this Final Four. I don't know what the marker is for Hall of Fame. Feels like 800 maybe. But then I was like looking through like guys who have won 800 or guys who have won less than 800. Like basically you're in the same neighborhood as Larrañaga. And if you don't have a national championship, it turns out that like that's kind of not enough to make the Hall of Fame. There are a few exceptions. I don't know. I have no idea what goes into a Hall of Fame career. I'm really bad at that. I'm really, really bad at because again, like I just think like everybody should be in the Hall of Fame. Like I'm bad at that with baseball too, where it's like I think when every single year they're voting on the Baseball Hall of Fame, I'm like, all those guys were really good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bobby Abreu was kind of a stud.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember. I think like of being a kid and opening a pack of baseball cards, like would I have been excited to get that card? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I would have been. So put him in the Hall of Fame.
I'm kind of out on the Basketball Hall of Fame.
The Basketball Hall of Fame stinks.
It's in a strip mall.
It stinks. Yeah, it definitely stinks. But but it's important to people to get in. And Jim Larrañaga, I think, like, obviously if he wins a national title, I think he's definitively in. But I just saw that this week. There's chatter about, like, is Jim Larrañaga, like, let's get him in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, I think he's going to stick around for that reason. Maybe, I don't know. Like, he seems like he's straight up saying, like, I'm not retiring anytime soon. And yeah, that'll be exciting to see if, like, he can. He's 73 years old though. That's what's tough. Like, do we want him to keep? I don't know. I don't know if I want him to coach for. I think the ideal scenario is he wins a national title and then he changes his mind and is like, I'm done. If this man wins a national title, if Jim Larrañaga wins a national championship and then comes back and coaches next year, I think it, like, undoes all of the goodwill, because he's such a likable guy. But if he comes back next year, I think he's, like, half as likable. It's
you
like,
come
what
back
are you
with, like,
doing?
a target on your back, and
yeah. But it's also just like, dude, like, take the storybook ending that we put in front of you and quit.
How old is he?
73.
If I was 26, which I am, and won a national championship, I would retire right away. I'd be like, I did the thing.
Yes, of course. But yeah, what happens next with Jim Larrañaga? Brian Dutcher. Does San Diego State go to the Pac-12? Probably eventually. When's that going to happen? We don't know. This is a man who I was going back through Dutcher's career, and which is to say, I just looked at his Wikipedia page, and going over, like, because you obviously remember that he was an assistant for Steve Fisher at San Diego State, but before that at Michigan with the Fab Five. And I just started thinking of, like, all the times where he's had, like, really good teams, or he's been a part of really good teams and national title caliber teams, and, like, come up short. To have the two with the Fab Five, 92 and 93. In 2011, San Diego State and Kawhi Leonard, they were 34-2, I think. I wrote it down. Yeah, 34-2. They were 2 seed. They lose to UConn, who goes on to win the national championship. They were down by 1 with 2 minutes left. It was a very close game. You know, if you're doing, like, the butterfly effect, what if, like, I don't know, they had UConn on the ropes and maybe they beat UConn, and who knows, maybe they go up. But that's one of those moments, if you're Brian Dutcher, maybe you're like, damn, I thought we had a team that was good enough to go to a Final Four, compete for a national championship. 2020, obviously, San Diego State started 26-0. They lost a couple down the stretch, but that was a team that was very much in position to do something special. Now, Kansas fans will tell you it was their title to lose. Dayton fans will tell you it was their title to lose. Michigan State fans will tell you it was probably Kansas to lose, as it turns out. But the point is like, that was another example of, like, Brian Dutcher having a team that could be special and then never really got to see the full thing. And then I looked up, TJ, that 1984, Brian Dutcher's very first job in basketball was a GA on Illinois. And that Illinois team went to the Elite Eight. So, like, even that team was, like, really good. So this is a man that's, like, been around great basketball his whole life. His father, I think there was a thing, Jim Dutcher, his father, coached in Minnesota, and he coached at, I believe, Eastern Michigan before that. And Eastern Michigan, I might be messing this up, but I think Eastern Michigan was, like, NAIA once upon a time. And his dad got NAIA national runner-up one year. And I just started looking through all this, and I just started building a narrative of, like, Brian Dutcher gets very, very close. Like, the Dutcher family's gotten very, very close. And I don't know. And San Diego State can win this thing, so that would be cool. What happens next with Brian Dutcher? Is this the start of something where San Diego State goes to the Pac-12? They become, like, as UCLA is bouncing to the Big Ten and USC are leaving, they are the preeminent, like, Southern California, West Coast. Even though UCLA is not literally moving, it's going to feel like they're moving by joining the Big Ten. So, like, San Diego State's footprint in Southern California, do they become, like, the, you know, I don't know. I'm fascinated to see how all that plays out. But and then Dusty May is, like, the big one, that he's obviously going to be a very hot name in coaching circles, or in coaching search circles. But at the same time, I don't know what job he's going to get. And I don't think, because the one power job that's open right now is Texas Tech, and tonight is the NIT title game. And McCaslin, the coach at North Texas, everybody that I've talked to said that they're just waiting for him to get done with his season, and Texas Tech going to hire him, like, tonight. So everybody listening to this, it's probably already been announced. other than that, I don't think there aren't even any power jobs open. So I think Dusty May's going to stick around at Florida Atlantic for a while. But that they're joining the American next year, so that'll be good. But I'm just curious to see like what's next for him, because they're basically bringing their entire team back. Michael Forrest is a fifth year, but other than him, the guy that hit the 4 free throws down the stretch against Kansas State, I think they lose him. But who the hell knows with COVID and all this other bullshit? Like maybe he can get a 6th year somehow. Other than that, I think they can bring back every single guy on this team, and that'll be interesting. If Florida Atlantic comes into next year and is ranked like 12th in the country or something, a target on their back, or if they win the national championship, they do the North Carolina thing next year, where they're the 9th seed that goes to the national championship. Maybe they lose to UConn in the title game, and then next year they start number 1.
I don't think
Florida
Atlantic is allowed to start number 1. I don't think that's in the
If
code.
everything about North Carolina last year was the exact same, except their jersey said Florida Atlantic, do you think they would have started the season ranked number 1? No. No.
Next year, Duke will start top 5 again. That's just how
Kentucky.
That's how this goes.
Quick break to talk about Elevated by Astroflav. Tired of being soft when you should be hard? 40% of men suffer from hormonal imbalances and low testosterone, and no one's willing to talk about it. The average male testosterone level has decreased by 26% over the past 3 decades. The situation is that you have a bunch of guys that are depressed, they don't have energy, they can't focus, they're gaining weight faster, and their libido is gone. Elevated by Astroflav is an all-natural testosterone booster containing 2 powerful ingredients, Fedosia agrestis and Tonkat Ali. This combination in Elevated has shown results of 250-point increase in total testosterone, but can be anywhere between 200 to 400-point increase. Increased testosterone level means increases in energy, improvements in libido, reduction in stress levels while building muscle and burning fat. Elevated by Astroflav has over 500,000 bottles sold to men with amazing results. Get a free 2-week trial of Elevated. Available at astroflav.com/barstool. Just pay shipping. And then my final big thought I had coming into this Final Four is that I simply do not care about Jim Nantz now that Houston isn't here. And that's controversial to say. No, nothing against Jim Nantz. I love Jim Nantz. I think Jim Nantz, I should have rephrased this. I don't care about the Jim Nantz Final Four thing. I don't care about like this being Jim Nantz's last Final Four now. Because going into the tournament, we were talking about how this man went to Houston. Houston is a team that's in a position to maybe win the national championship. The Final Four is obviously in Houston. What if Jim Nantz, his last call is his alma mater winning the national championship in the city that they're, oh my God. Now that that's off the table, I don't think I care as much. Like I don't want a Jim Nantz farewell tour this weekend.
I want to see who he gives his tie to?
I don't care. I simply do not care. And that might be and listen, CBS is going to do something for him. I know that, and I don't blame Jim Nantz for it in a way that I blame Mr. K for last year, because he kept like having the attitude of like I couldn't put a stop to this even if I wanted to, and it's like you literally could at any point in time. You could have stopped this. So I don't have a problem with Jim Nantz. I am just preemptively saying CBS, when the national championship is tied at the under 12 timeout and we come back and you're rolling like a package and Jim Nantz starts waxing poetic about, and he's like putting his arm around Grant Hill and Raph, and he's like, Tracy, of course, all the years that we've been doing this. And meanwhile, like the game's going on and he's just like going on about like, it's been this has been one of the great joys of my life calling these Final Four games with you guys, and the game is close, I will lose my mind. So I just want to get out ahead of that. That like I don't need that in my life.
I don't think we should ever really do a retirement tour for a broadcaster.
I agree, but I think we're gonna get one, and I'm
like, why is he done? What? Why retire? Is he gonna lose his voice next week?
Yeah, he's like, I gotta hang it up. I don't have, because he's not even retiring from broadcasting.
No,
he's retiring from the Final Four
in 2 weeks, probably.
Which is again, yeah, like he is gonna do the Masters. He's still gonna be in our lives. He's still gonna do NFL games. He's still gonna do super.
Why? What's the point?
But
I'm getting a contract up or something, and he doesn't want to talk about it.
It's probably like he just wants to do less work for the same amount of money. I mean, like that's what we all do. Like if I look up in 10 years and I'm at Barstool and I can like have the exact same contract but not have to do some of the responsibilities, yeah, I'm gonna use that leverage, I guess. But yeah, it does kind of undermine I'm getting mad at something that hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah.
But I'm arguing. I'm yelling at but I could see it in my head so vividly, TJ. I could see it. I can see the freaking Jim Nantz, like, yeah, I can see Grant Hill throwing his arm around him and pinching his shoulder and being like, "You're the best to ever do it." And we love you. We love you, Jim. We just love you so much. And then, like, yeah, the production crew, like, brings out a cake or something. Yeah. And, yeah, do it at halftime maybe.
I don't know when they would even do it. Because they wouldn't do it after the game because it's over. Like, I don't even know when they will do it. It might be pregame.
They do it pregame?
Pre-championship.
But see, this is the point. Is like, I don't want pregame. I want talk about the game. Like, yes. This is the national championship. I don't want to take like 10 minutes of pregame to talk about Jim Nantz. I hope they don't, but they're going to. I know they're going to.
I think it might be an encore thing pregame.
But if he, in fact, in my mind, I see him saying, like, this is one of the great joys of my life and one of the highlights of my career and yada, yada, yada. And when he says that, and I think he will, I am, again, going to be screaming at my TV saying, if you love this so much, why are you leaving it?
Right.
Like, why? It doesn't make any sense. So, anyway, I want to ban all farewell tours. I want to ban, yeah, all of it. I don't normalize the Irish goodbye. Jay Wright did it perfectly. That's the lesson we learned from last year's Final Fours. We had 2 coaches retire, 2 legends of the game, 2 Hall of Fame coaches retired. Both of them lost in the Final Four last year. It was the last we saw of them. One guy just, like, peaced out and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm retiring and this guy's taking over." The other guy did not and is now still on my television talking to ducks. Whatever the fuck he's doing with Affleck. So that's it. Those are the big thoughts I have going into this Final Four. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll take a break, come back and talk about some other stuff and wrap this thing up. There's nothing like the excitement of the big tournament, but every buzzer beater for your team is someone else's bracket buster, and every game is a chance to turn the tables. When your pride or your money is on the line and you need to take a beat, take a moment to chill with an ice-cold Coors Light. Do what the San Diego State fans on my flight were doing. Had a group of SDSU guys flying from, we were on the same flight from LA. They were fired up, drinking Coors Lights on the plane, having a great time. Yeah, they kind of won me over. I was like, those are guys I want to hang out with. Those are guys I want them to be happy this weekend. No offense to Florida Atlantic, but these guys were guys who get it because they drink Coors Light and they know that there's only one beer out there that's literally made to chill, and that's Coors Light. When the mountains turn blue, it is as cold as the Rockies. When you need to hit reset, just crack open an ice cold Coors Light. It is mountain cold refreshment made to chill. Get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/Titus. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. All right, Final Four weekend. It's here. Women's Final Four also going on. Shout out to the ladies. I do think this women's Final Four is going to be awesome. Have you been paying any attention to the women's? I know you're
Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I know who she is.
Yeah. It's going to be a great women's Final Four. It starts Friday. You have South Carolina, who's won like 4,000 games in a row, as the number 1 team in the country. Aaliyah Boston was National Player of the Year last year. They're playing Caitlin Clark, which is as good as it gets. You have the best player, the most electric player against I mean, that's like, yeah, you don't get a storyline better than that. They're playing the one game, and then on the other side, it's Kim Mulkey and LSU. Did you see what she was wearing? Did you see that?
She wears power suits.
She wears, yeah, she's crazy. And then they're playing Virginia Tech, who cheated against Ohio State, but they're still a very good team. And that Liz Kitley girl just gave me nightmares. I'm gonna think about her freaking dominating the Buckeyes and the Georgia Moore girl, the point guard. But I think Virginia Tech and South Carolina are the 2 best teams in the country. And then you have Kim Mulkey, who's like, I don't know if she's the best coach, but she's like the most notable coach, I would say.
She's like the crazy coach.
The crazy coach. She's the Dan Hurley of women's basketball. And then you have Caitlin Clark. It's going to be awesome. So I'll be watching that. I made the fatal flaw of when Ohio State beat UConn. I probably shouldn't admit this. But when Ohio State beat UConn and I saw that the Final Four was going to be in Dallas, the women's, I started Googling, like, how far would the drive be from Houston to Dallas? Like, when would the games be? the game on Sunday night would be the national championship. If Ohio State's there and we're doing a show, could I get to? Yeah, and then we lost. Then we lost the next.
Why don't they do that in the same city?
They should. That would actually be a good idea. They could do it at like the NBA arena in the city, because like they did
it Friday and Sunday.
It's a great idea. They should do that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the logistics don't make sense, but I feel like that makes sense on paper or makes sense in my head. Yeah,
care.
Yeah, I would go. I would definitely go. Women's Final Four is going to be awesome. What else is going on? What else we got to talk about? Opening day going on. You don't care?
Volpe's cool. I'm kind of low on the Yankees going into this season. I've been hurt too many times.
Yeah. The Cubs should be competitive, but I saw that Marcus Stroman is like, he hates like every single person that works at Barstool.
Yeah,
so
he hates you. Even if he doesn't know who you are, he hates you by proxy.
That's a bummer because he pitched really well for the Cubs today, and I'm a Cubs fan, and the Cubs are going to be competitive, and I'm excited about that. Are you going to become a Cubs fan in Chicago?
I would like to go to some games. I've been to Chicago 4 or 5 times. I've never been to Wrigley. Just never worked out.
We'll make you a Cubs fan. I'll say this: watching opening day, the rule changes. I like the pitch count thing or the pitch clock thing. No shift. I think I like the bigger bases. Maybe it's just me being a hater, TJ, but I feel like the bases aren't even that big. I feel like we can go bigger. I feel like this isn't even good enough. Like I was watching today and I was like, I kind of forgot that the bases are bigger.
Yeah. It's like
we need bigger bases. We need like
They couldn't even make a proper analogy on the broadcast I watched on ESPN when the Astros game was starting. They were like, and now the bases are the size of a small pizza box. It's like, okay, I don't. Is that big? That's like not that big. I don't think.
Box, yeah. Like, oh, okay, I got it. What else? I guess that's it. I don't know.
What's your make your predictions for the Final Four?
Predictions for Final Four. I do think that as much as I want to talk myself into one of the other 3 teams, they have legitimate chances. This is not UConn is not head and shoulders better than everybody, but UConn has not had a game within single digits against the team outside of the Big East, and I think that means something. And I do think there's something to, like we joked about it before, but I think there's some real truth to it that the Big East can scout them better. There's more familiarity with them. I think the refs hate Dan Hurley in the Big East. I think playing on the road, as it turns out, is very difficult. So I think all of those factors led to UConn, kind of hitting a speed bump in the middle of the year. But then when you actually zoom out and look at their season, and when they've been put in these situations, they beat the hell out of Alabama early in the season. They've beaten literally every single non-Big East team they've played. They've beaten by 10 or more. I do think Miami can beat them. I do think I think the winner of San Diego State, Florida Atlantic could beat them. I would have to be an absolute fool to count on that to happen. The question will be this, and I'll get to the prediction. I'm talking through it, TJ. Don't yell at me. I can see you yelling at me with your eyes. The question I have is if this is a close game, Miami's comfortable in a close game. If Miami's hitting all their shots, say, and UConn's throwing up bricks or foul trouble, or Miami going small is giving Klingon and Sonogo fits, and they can't get out and guard ball screens as well as they probably should be. If that starts happening, will Dan Hurley lose his mind and how much is he going to be yelling at refs, and how much is is he that's that when I wrote the manifesto and I said that crazy coaches can't win national titles, that was what I had in mind, was these situations that arise where you're no longer just trying to get your team going, you're an active liability to your team because you think you're working the refs, but all you're really doing is pissing the refs off. And I'm worried about that with Hurley, that if the game gets close, is Miami more comfortable there? And is this psychopath Hurley going to come out? Having said all that, I do like UConn to still beat Miami. I think San Diego State's going to beat Florida Atlantic. I think Florida Atlantic's going to go 3 for 24 from the 3-point line. And Florida Atlantic people are going to be like, damn, we would have won that game if we just had an off shooting night. And then San Diego State fans are going to laugh and say that's been literally every team that we've played this year has had an off shooting night. It's funny how that keeps happening. And then San Diego State will lose to UConn because UConn would be like if San Diego State mucks it up against UConn's going to be just fine. Like I think UConn can win in so many different styles, and that game could get pretty ugly. I think that's how it's going to shake out. I called the Final Four last year, by the way. People forget that I said I'm on a podcast feed somewhere saying that it's going to be Kansas over Carolina, and no one gives me credit for that. Everyone just points to how I said Kentucky was going to win the national championship, and then they lost in the first round. But I did call that. So there you go. I got UConn over San Diego State as my prediction.
I think I have UConn over FAU.
Okay.
Just
all right.
for fun.
All right. Well, you're dumb. So of course
Shit.
you're a stupid piece of shit, TJ. That's probably why you said. What else? Do we got anything else?
Congrats to Caleb McConnell. He got the College Insider Defensive Player of the Year award. Much deserved. Beast.
Yeah. We need this in college basketball too, like a centralized awards situation. There's way too
I
many.
never know if it's the real one or not. I just said
Jalen Clark was an ABC defensive player there. I saw that for UCLA. I don't know.
Play. He's injured.
If you're so good at defense, why didn't you defend yourself from injury?
The other thing I had was this Final Four: Aztecs, Huskies, Owls, Hurricanes. Is it the most dynamic mascot Final Four?
Just like the all over the place
in recent memory.
Yeah.
I can run you through backwards if you need. Okay. Last year, Blue Devils, Tar Heels, Jayhawks, unique. Wildcats disqualifies you, I think, right away.
Wildcats disqualifies.
There's 100 Wildcat teams. Year before, Cougars, Bruins, Bears, pretty unique. Bulldogs, you're disqualified right away.
Yeah.
2020, no tournament. Cavaliers, Red Raiders, Spartans, but then you had Tigers, so you're out right away.
Yeah. Huskies is kind of...
What are the
Washington?
No.
Northeastern.
Yeah.
Northeastern Huskies. Washington Huskies. There's another power conference team called the Huskies. That's tough.
I guess it's...
I thought you were saying from like a diverse range. You have a natural disaster weather pattern,
which I guess is...
You have a bird, you have a dog, and then you have a human being.
Right. Like
that's pretty.
As far as diverse,
I guess that's pretty diverse
groupings. That has. To
I think
be
we
high
needed instead of one of the animals. I would take. Ideally, we take Huskies out and we get like a mascot where like nobody's even sure what it even is.
A hilltopper or something.
Like a hilltopper, yeah. And you're like, what the fuck is a hilltopper?
What is that thing?
Yeah, what is that? I think that would have been ideal. That would have been a nice, diverse. The Hurricane wins in the fight, right? I mean, the Hurricane just.
But is it the Hurricane or is it the bird? Is it Sebastian?
Did you see the Husky? There was controversy that the UConn Husky couldn't make it down here.
The real one.
The real one.
Apparently,
but then they got him.
He's like missed a bunch of games this year too because he was like sick at one point.
Oh no!
I think he's had a rough season.
Oh no! Well, they got him here. I saw.
Rough.
I saw. Yeah.
He made it.
I think they made it. I think
they don't have enough room on the plane.
I think they
move over. I don't. What do you mean?
It is kind of funny that that the Husky has to fly commercial. I don't know. I feel like you throw that dog on the team plane, right?
Yeah.
But no, I guess not. I think he had to buy a ticket and get down here just like everybody else. Live show tomorrow, Friday. We're gonna be at Kirby Ice House. 5 p.m. here, 6 p.m.
5 to 7 Central Time.
6 p.m. Eastern. We start at 6
it'll be
p.m.
live
Eastern.
streamed everywhere.
Dave, Dan, and crew is how it's being marketed. So I have yet to hear whether I'll be part of the crew. I'm assuming I am, but also I was told Rico is in town, so maybe he's taking my seat. We'll see. I don't know. Jake's here, right? Yeah, Jake's gonna be here. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Let's have a great Final Four, everybody. I am excited for it, man, because I do think that at the end of the day, if you're a fan of college basketball, it is just a celebration. It's just like a fun weekend to have everybody come into one city, and you see all these coaches clinics going on, and you see I will be at none of them, but they are going on, and all the different events and just the excitement around the sport is awesome. And I will feel that excitement all weekend, and then Saturday the games will tip off, and whether they're ugly or not, if you're listening to this show and you've been following along, I'm assuming you're someone who's locked in on this thing, so you're going to be excited as well. So that's where I've arrived. Is that like I think having Big Cat on the show really helped me with that too. Where it was just like we don't have to convince other people to care about this shit.
It's our awesome weekend.
It's our weekend. We made it, TJ. We made it down here. What a long season it was with you.
I remember it was just the last. It feels like just last month we were doing episode 0.
I think you're right. I think I was watching the McDonald's All-American game. I was putting notes together. That was last night, right? That was last night. Yeah. I'm putting the notes together for the show, and I'm like working on this idea that does this Final Four mean? Is this like a sign of the times? As I kept saying. And then you're watching the McDonald's game, and all these Kentucky dudes are just playing out of their minds. And you're like, oh, okay, so next year, Kentucky's just going to be really good again. We're just going to go right back to... But then there are people listening, and they're like, we say that about Kentucky every year. But if you watch the McDonald's game, DJ Wagner's awesome. Reed Shepherd's going to be freaking awesome. He's going to be awesome. And Bronny's not coming to Ohio State, and I've come to terms with that. So
why?
I just don't think it's happening.
USA?
It as I was watching last night, it just like clicked. It was just like having LeBron there, and it just feels like he's that brand has out. Not that Ohio State's not a big brand, but it just like doesn't align. It doesn't. He's going to USC. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a big believer in closing your eyes and picturing something, whether it makes sense, which is why I don't think Florida Atlantic's going to win the national championship. I just can't see Florida Atlantic. I think they're good enough to, but going back to like what we said about like North Carolina last year, and if the jerseys were different and all that, I just don't think Florida Atlantic. I don't think you can wear Florida Atlantic jerseys and win a national championship. I can't see it in my head. Dusty May and the boys out there holding the trophy, and I just can't see it.
Clock's got to strike midnight at some point.
Yeah, but I can see UConn.
Oh yeah,
and I can't see at this point in time, even though Bronny did a photo shoot wearing Ohio State jerseys. And those pictures literally exist on the internet. I still can't see him in an Ohio State jersey anymore. I just can't see it. I see him in a USC jersey.
His name was thrown around where Rutgers and his name were connected at one point, and I was like, I don't even know if I want this much pressure.
But what's really fucked up about the Bronny thing with Ohio State is I got initially I wanted Bronny more for the hype and the hoopla and not actually for his talent. And then I was watching the McDonald's game, and I was like, now we're definitely not getting him. But now I actually do. I just want the player. I just want if I could just get a player as talented as Bronny, but his name is Mark Titus or something boring like that.
Right.
I would 100% take that because he was hitting everything, and he looks really good. And
he's had a tremendous senior year.
People were shitting all over him forever because they were just like, he's not that good because he's not as good as his dad, but like who is, literally nobody ever. yeah so you're watching him last night and you're like, this kid is good. I want this kid at my school, but it's not happening. I like Jared McCain. He's going to Duke. Yeah, he was good too. He's a TikTok star. All right, that's the show. Enjoy the Final Four. We'll do a show Sunday night. We'll put a show out for Monday morning. We'll have Jake on, I think, for that one. And then we'll do a show Monday after the title game. And, good luck to all the teams and good luck to betting and everything. And we'll see you on Monday.